Once upon a time, there was a beautiful kingdom in the sky, ruled by a white cat. But a black cat fell in love with her, and that's where everything began. We then shift to Earth and meet the hero, who is preparing to leave, taking his weapons with him. He's ready to go hunting with the village men. As he looks up at the sky, one of the men tells him that the Sky Kingdom isn't aware of anything. We learn that there are two kingdoms, one in the sky and one on the ground. Suddenly, monsters attack the village, and the men order the boy to take the children up the mountain until they defeat the monsters to protect the village. The hero takes the children and runs towards the hill, but the attacking monsters are very strong and easily defeat the villagers, chasing him and the children. One child falls, and the hero starts fighting the monsters to save him. He then carries an injured girl and runs with the boy, but a monster eats the little boy, whose last words are to take care of his little sister. Only the hero and the little girl survive. He takes her to the hill, but she is very weak and dies. The boy buries her. Later, we see an old man dressed as a warrior walking through the mountains in the rain. He finds the hero digging a very large hole and asks about the village. The hero responds that the village is gone. The old man is surprised and then asks the hero what he is doing. The hero replies that he is digging a hole to bury the bodies of the people killed by the monsters. The hero continues digging, and the old man, Scurs, is very surprised. The hero tells him that the monsters also attack the neighboring village. Suddenly, the hero collapses. Scurs tells him that he will die of hunger, giving him food and water. Scurs introduces himself and asks the hero for his name. The hero says he doesn't have a name and that people can call him anything, just like everyone does. The hero then asks Scurs why the Dark King allows monsters to wreak havoc and kill people. Scurs replies that the king surely has other concerns. The hero says the king doesn't care about the important things. Scurs asks what these important things are. The hero says the most important thing is people's happiness. The hero resumes digging, and Scurs asks how long he will continue. The hero replies that he will keep digging until the hole reaches the sky. Scurs doesn't understand the hero's meaning, so the hero explains that sometimes light shines from the depths of dark holes, and that there is no difference between the sky and the ground. Everyone is equal when placed in a hole. Scurs throws a sword to the hero, telling him that he will show him a way to improve things, which obviously won't involve digging. The hero attacks Scurs but fails completely. Scurs mocks him, saying that if the way is to fight the monsters with a sword to save people, then he doesn't want to learn it. Scurs tells him it's better to die if he's reached this level of despair. He attacks the hero again, who manages to block the attack, but knows that Scurs could easily kill him if he wanted to. The hero asks Scurs why he doesn't kill him. Scurs says it's a whim. The hero, very annoyed, asks Scurs if he kills and saves people based on his mood. Scurs calmly confirms this. The hero gets more upset, grabs the sword, and yells at Scurs, asking who gave him the right to treat human lives this way. Scurs replies that this right exists and belongs to someone they wouldn't wish to meet. The hero asks, the Dark King. Scurs says yes, and adds that obedience to the Dark King is the destiny of the Dark people. The hero charges at Scurs, shouting that he is not the Dark King. Scurs says he is indeed not the Dark King, and that he tried to be but failed. The two start fighting, and Scurs is much stronger, but lowers himself to the hero's level. He tells the hero that making people happy is not easy, and will require a lot of effort and strong resolve, not the weak determination the hero has. Scurs tells the hero that he must dedicate himself to his dream, not just dig holes and wait for help from the sky. The hero, very angry, attacks Scurs, declaring that he will become the Dark King no matter what and will achieve his dream to make people happy. He flies at Scurs. Suddenly, Scurs collapses to the ground, telling the hero to take his sword, go to the capital, and ask for the Scurs family mansion, declaring himself as the Dark Prince and the heir to the Dark King. Scurs tells the hero that he will surely meet a knight named Valles, who, if he sees the hero's swordsmanship, will take good care of him. Scurs advises the hero that the world is not a beautiful place and asks him to change it. The hero cries, and light emanates from him. Scurs' last words are that the hero was born in darkness but light shines from him. Scurs dies, and the hero sets his goal to become the next Dark King to change the world. We move to the Sky Kingdom, where Queen Iris of Light is fighting the darkness. She is assisted by the leader of the Light Knights and his sister Shima, the court sorceress who creates protective shields for the knights. The queen notices that darkness is spreading and that the balance may be disrupted if things remain as they are. Valles and Shima return from the battle, where their younger brother Theo is waiting for them. They joke around, and we learn that those fighting the darkness in the Sky Kingdom are only the knights, sorcerers, and the queen, which constantly endangers their lives. At night, Shima tells Valles that the queen could use the power of rune stones to completely completely destroy the Dark King, but she fears that the balance between light and darkness would be disrupted. Valis replies that she will never use that power. The queen tells the minister that they managed to repel the darkness attack, but isn't sure if they will succeed next time. She says they need to strengthen their military power as soon as possible. We return to Earth, where the hero arrives at the capital. There, Valis sees him and asks why he has Lord Scurs' sword. The hero doesn't answer, so Valis accuses him of being a thief. The hero asks if his name is Valis. Valis asks how he knows his name and where Lord Scurs is. The hero tells him that Scurs is dead. Valis accuses the hero of killing Lord Scurs and launches a simple attack, but the hero dodges. Valis says that someone as weak as him couldn't have touched a hair on Lord Scurs' head. Valis points his sword at the hero's face, asking why he is looking for the Scurs family mansion. The hero repeats Lord Scurs' words about fulfilling his dream and declares himself the Dark Prince. Valis acknowledges him as his new master, to whom he will pledge his loyalty. We shift to the Sky Kingdom, where a soldier informs the queen that Baal, the Lord of Destruction, has attacked the city of Metis. The queen of the Flying Kingdom grabs her weapon and flies away. The leader of the Knights of Light orders the soldiers to follow the queen. The queen uses magic to inform all the kingdom's soldiers that there is danger in Metis, the capital of the West, and they need to go there quickly with the knights. Indeed, in Metis, there is great chaos caused by Baal, the Lord of Destruction. People are running and are very scared. Baal mocks the soldiers, telling them they should have increased security. The wizards start casting attack spells on the monster, but he isn't affected at all and laughs at how weak they are. He then attacks the wizards in their tower, destroying the entire tower with them inside. The knights start attacking the monster with arrows, but his body is so tough that the attacks had no effect. Baal laughs again, saying that all they've accomplished is revealing their location. Baal moves towards them, lifting his leg to stomp on them, but suddenly an attack of fire hits his leg. A genie had launched the attack and declares to Baal that he will not let him defile the land any further. The genie orders the wizards to flee while he handles the situation and begins attacking the monster. The Knights of Light arrive, receiving a report that there are dark soldiers ahead. The Knight Commander orders the first squad to follow him and the second squad to fight the dark soldiers and protect the wizards. He instructs the royal sorceress Shima to watch their back. The genie continues to attack Baal, but Baal remains unaffected, mocking the genie's attacks. Baal attacks the genie, turning his spirits into fried potatoes. The genie is shocked by Baal's strength and his defeat, unsure of how to deal with this monster. The queen arrives, finding the wizards severely injured from Baal's earlier attack. They warn her of his power and hope the ancestors of the runestones will protect her. The queen is deeply shocked and saddened by their condition. She thanks the wizards for their bravery, saying that many people were able to escape because they stood up and fought him. Baal laughs, saying that the best fighter in the kingdom has finally appeared, referring to the queen. The queen turns to him, threatening that if he stays in the kingdom of light any longer, she will not spare him. Baal says he wouldn't mind and invites her to attack him mercilessly. The queen begins her attack, and Baal remarks on her speed, her first strike being with the sword. Switching to the Knights of Light, they are marching to capture the soldiers of the Dark King, but two soldiers approach them, and the knights threaten them with their weapons. The soldiers say they will surrender, claiming they are fleeing from the Dark King and not here to fight. The Knight Commander orders them to drop their weapons and sit down, which they do. He then criticizes them for lacking the honor of warriors. The prince, however, seems uninterested. Looking at his own sword, Groza understands his. They respond that they aren't warriors, but merely escapees dragged into the war. Suddenly, dark magic overtakes the dark soldiers, making them attack the knights. The Knight Commander easily defeats the first one, but more dark soldiers appear. The commander orders his troops to attack these dark soldiers, revealing their true faces and encouraging his knights to fight with full force as the number of dark soldiers isn't large. Returning to the queen's battle with the Dark King, the queen's strength comes from the rune stones left by the ancestors. She asks for their aid to cast a powerful spell to defeat Baal. A huge amount of magic emanates from the weapon, but the Dark King easily deflects it. The queen admits Baal's immense and violent power. She realizes she might die at this rate. Baal mocks her, expecting more entertainment from her. The queen gathers her strength again, enchanting her weapon and attacking Baal. He mocks her, saying this is the fighting spirit a queen should have. She attacks, but he dodges and throws a rock as a distraction before seizing her weapon and throwing her aside, calling her too weak for a queen. The queen stands, realizing she needs more power than the runestones can provide. She wants to attack Baal again, but the genie warns her that using more power will cause her body to collapse. Baal provokes her, saying she can't beat him without fighting seriously. The queen knows she can't push the magic stones any further. Baal grows bored of their hesitation and leaves. The queen orders the genie to help help the survivors until Theos arrives. Shima informs the queen that the dark forces attack them and the knights on their way. Shima's brother, Theos, the leader of the Knights of Light, confronted them. She also mentions that the dark forces had humans with them. Switching to the Dark King's palace, specifically to his minister Valas, the leader of the Dark People asks if the Dark King has returned. Valas asks why he needs the king. The leader complains that many of his followers are dying in the Sky Kingdom's expeditions, wanting the battles to stop as they only result in soldier deaths. He insists the Dark People aren't monsters meant only for fighting and conquest. Dark magic suddenly strikes the leader, revealing that the Dark King has returned. Valas offers to kill the leader himself, but the king isn't interested, magically expelling the leader. The king declares to Valas that they must conquer every place with light and spread darkness over the earth and sky. Valas warns about losing their dark soldiers, but the king insists that the Dark People are bound to follow darkness. No one can defy the king's orders in the Dark Kingdom. The king won't rest until darkness covers everything, intending to first eliminate Baal. Valas then meets with the Prince of Darkness, who asks where he's been. Valas explains he was at the royal palace serving the Dark King and his potential successors, reaffirming his loyalty to the hero Dana. The prince asks Valas to teach him how to use the sword, believing he can't become the Dark King without easily defeating Valas. Valas agrees, but emphasizes that learning is also crucial for becoming the Dark King, needing to know how to talk and behave. The prince acknowledges that Scurs said the same. Valas prepares the prince for knightly training the next day. The prince, excited, speaks informally, but quickly adopts a serious demeanor. Valas reminds the prince that he isn't the only one vying for the throne, responsible for guiding all kingdom soldiers, including potential successors. The prince, unthreatened, continues reading. Valas trains the prince in knighthood and studies, quickly becoming strong enough to disarm Valas in a duel. The prince, instead of celebrating, insists on another duel, believing his victory was luck. Valas commends the prince's improvement, but the prince seeks more training to become even stronger. Valas gives the prince the suit Scurs wore in his youth, assuring it will fit and please Scurs. Shifting to the desert, Groza, tired from the journey, rests with her guards. She complains about the hare living in such a place, despite the guards' warnings. Suddenly, monsters attack. Confidently, Groza defeats them swiftly, impressing the guard to praise her strength. A monster attacks her from behind, but its head is suddenly severed by the Prince of Darkness. The prince asks if Groza is okay. Shocked, she thanks him. As the prince departs, Groza stops him, asking who he is. He reveals he aspires to be the Dark King, making her realize he's the prince she's been searching for. She questions his presence here instead of the palace. He explains he trains here with Valas. Groza informs the prince she's here to have him compete against other hares to determine the throne's succession, which he agrees to. She mentions the reward for the top hare, the Great Dark Sword, affirming his recognition as the Prince of Darkness. Next we move to the Sky Kingdom, where Iris sits on the throne, reminiscing about the attack on Midas City by Baal and the Shadow People. Shima enters and calls out to Iris, who is lost in thought. Eventually, Iris notices her. Shima tells Iris that she resembles the previous queen. She then informs Iris that she will be leaving to oversee the reconstruction of Midas City. Iris bids Shima farewell and resumes her seat on the throne, continuing to think about the previous queen. We flash back to a time before Iris became queen. She wakes up very early, and Shima arrives, apologizing for interrupting her thoughts. Iris replies that she has already finished her thinking. Shima remarks that Iris wakes up early as usual, to which Iris responds that it is the only thing she knows how to do. Iris asks Shima what the most important quality in a queen of the Kingdom of Light is. Shima admits she also needs to know the answer and has no idea. Shima adds that only one of them will inherit the throne, but she hopes that neither of them holds a grudge regardless of who becomes queen, and Iris agrees. After meeting with the old woman of the city, Shima confesses her fear of becoming queen, equating it to being imprisoned in the palace. Iris reassures her, saying she is not afraid because she believes even a queen can sneak out at night. Shima invites Iris to dinner at her house, mentioning that Theus will be there. Iris expresses her happiness at seeing Theus, whom she hasn't seen in a while. However, Shima thinks to herself that the situation is different for Theus. Shima emphasizes that Iris should not be late. Iris replies that she will gather wild plants and then head straight to Shima's house. Iris goes to the mountain, picks many wild plants, places them in a basket, and heads to Shima's house. There she meets Theus and Theos, Shima's brothers. She thanks them for the delicious dinner, and Theos invites her to eat with them more often. Iris gets up to leave, but Theus offers to escort her and carries her basket. On the way, he thanks her for the wild plants, praising their taste. Iris humbly notes that the mountain is full of similar plants, but Theus insists that the one she picks tastes better. It is evident that Theus is very fond of Iris. When they reach her home, Theus bids her farewell. Iris calls out to him, asking how one can be a good queen Queen of Light. She then gets nervous and tells him to forget the question. Phaeus admits he doesn't know the answer but believes that just asking the question is a good sign. He shares that he often asks himself what he needs to offer the future queen as the sword of the state. Phaeus concludes that contemplating such questions is important. Iris thanks him and says she will ponder the matter herself. The next day, Iris stands alone on a large hill, reflecting on the question. Suddenly, darkness attacks her. She tries to escape to alert the knights but realizes there is no time and that she must confront the darkness herself. She stands her ground, chanting a spell that successfully disperses the darkness. She collapses in shock, unable to believe she did it alone. Iris hears a voice telling her that the old woman of light is the strongest, but must face and get used to loneliness. Iris declares she is willing to do so to balance light and darkness. We then shift to the Prince of Darkness, who tells Valis about the competition. Valis says he was invited because he is a strong candidate and expresses confidence in his abilities. The prince asks if Valis will attend the competition, but Valis replies he cannot as he must accompany the king. He assures the prince that the Scurs family supports him. At the competition, the potential princes stand in an arena with an audience. Groza announces they are gathered to determine the rankings of the candidates to inherit the king's throne. She adds that the winner will receive the sword of the King of Darkness, leading the competitors to assume that the sword's recipient will surely become king. A contestant asks Groza how they will be ranked. Groza explains they will first fight monsters, and the last two standing will duel each other, with the winner emerging victorious. Another competitor asks if they can injure their opponent in the duel. Groza assures them they are prepared for such incidents and will treat any injuries immediately. She also mentions they can withdraw at any time. Then they release the monsters. The competitors, all very strong, easily defeat the monsters. The prince also quickly and effortlessly defeats them. These monsters resemble those that attacked his village and killed everyone. One contestant, afraid and unable to fight her monster, is saved by the prince. However, she yells at the prince, insisting she doesn't need his pity. The other contestants are annoyed by his help and question his motives. Suddenly, a stronger monster attacks the contestants. They fight back but fail to defeat it, with the monster turning them into fried potatoes. One contestant attacks the monster but is caught. Another contestant attempts to burn the monster along with the captured contestant, but the prince intervenes, pushes her aside, and defeats the monster with a single blow. Ultimately, only two contestants remain. Groza orders the guards to take the others for treatment. Adele, one of the remaining contestants, acknowledges the prince's strength, attributing it to being a candidate of the Scurs family. The remaining contestants enter a room to prepare the arena for their duel. Adele asks the prince why he helped the female contestant. The prince responds that he didn't need a reason. He helped her because she needed it. Adele argues that the King of Darkness shouldn't help anyone, recalling his own childhood as a street orphan without help. He believes all he needs is immense strength since no one helps anyone in the end. The prince replies that if ignoring others in need is the only way to become king, he will find another way. Adele warns that the prince will regret this way of thinking. Outside their room, Groza overhears their conversation and is impressed by the prince's reasoning. The duel between Adele and the Prince of Darkness begins in silence. Groza notes their skills are very close. Suddenly, Adele intensifies his attacks and mocks the prince, asking if this is all he has. Without replying, the prince disarms Adele but does not kill him. Adele asks why, and the prince explains he wants to be king to change the world and make everyone happy, not to kill. Although Adele technically loses, he retrieves his sword and attacks the prince again, who defeats him once more. This time, the prince holds his sword to Adele's neck. Adele finally acknowledges defeat and recognizes the prince as the King of Darkness. Groza declares the prince the winner and gives him the sword of the King of Darkness. Adele tells the prince he should prove his idealistic words by actions. Adele asks for the prince's name, but the prince remains silent. Adele introduces himself and calls the prince the King of Darkness. Outside, the prince meets Valis, who says there's no need to ask about the competition's outcome since the sword is with the prince. Adele asks why Valis is here. Valis reveals he has a message that needs to go to the Kingdom of Light, and that the Prince of Darkness, as the heir, should deliver it along with Adele. The prince looks at the sky, pondering the same question Iris did. What is needed to be a good king? On the ship, the guards are sitting around talking, saying that the ship is flying in the air by magic, and is headed to the floating island where the Kingdom of Light is located. On this ship are Groza, Adele, and the prince. Groza tells the prince to never forget that the people of light and dark are at war, and that he must be careful. Adele mentions that the prince is not a good speaker, which will be a problem especially since they are on high alert. The prince replies that he can just hand them the message without speaking, but Adele insists that if they get into a difficult situation, the prince will need to speak well to get them out alive. Adele suggests that he play the role of the envoy, saying the prince is his bodyguard. Groza initially objects, but Adele argues that the prince is destined to be king and must be kept out of danger. When the ship reaches the island, Iris sees it, and it is met by the queen's guards and their leader, Phaeus. As soon as Phaeus draws his sword, the prince quickly places his hand on his weapon, ready to fight. Phaeus comments that he knew the people of Dark only wanted to fight, and that they could never desire peace. Adel diffuses the situation by apologizing for his bodyguard's reaction, explaining it's his duty to protect him. He requests Phaeus to forgive the bodyguard's lack of manners. Adel tells Phaeus that he surely knows about the envoy from the Kingdom of Dark and that they have a message. The prince quickly presents the message to Phaeus. Phaeus orders one of his soldiers to take the message, but still keeps his sword drawn. Adel asks him to lower his sword, stating they are humble messengers, not here for war. He also reminds Phaeus that his duty is to guide them, not to threaten them with a sword. Phaeus retorts that he could claim Adel resorted to violence, and no one would doubt him. Adel questions if even the Queen of Light wouldn't doubt him. Adel expresses his dislike for the war that has made them so hostile, but acknowledges that the people of Dark started the conflict. He explains that this was all due to the insane Dark King, who kills and spares people as he pleases. He asserts that the soldiers of Dark are not to blame, which reminds Phaeus of the soldiers who wanted to surrender during the attack on Midas City. Adel continues, saying that the people of Dark don't like their king and are waiting for him to die since he is the only one with the rune stone on Earth. Phaeus challenges him to say this openly on Earth, but Adel explains he would be killed immediately if he did. Eventually, Phaeus lowers his sword and asks them to leave their weapons. He takes the message to Queen Iris and gives them a tour of the kingdom. The people call them demons, and Adel tells the prince they need to change people's perception of them. Phaeus asks how long they plan to stay. Adel replies they'll leave as soon as they complete their mission, but it will likely take some time. Phaeus takes them to the palace to meet the queen and asks them to wait in the hall until she arrives. When Iris enters, Adel bows quickly, but the prince is mesmerized by her. Adel introduces himself as the envoy from the Kingdom of Dark, keeping his head bowed. Iris notices the prince staring at her and senses he is more than just a guard. Iris tells Adel she has read the king's letter and remarks that the current relations between the Kingdom of Light and the Kingdom of Dark are far from friendly. If things continue as they are, both kingdoms will end up completely destroyed. Adel states that for now, the enemy of their enemy is their friend and that both kingdoms have a common enemy, Baal the Destroyer. Iris acknowledges that Baal has destroyed their cities, to which Adel responds that he has done the same in their kingdom as well. Iris questions whether once they defeat Baal, the Kingdom of Dark will return to attacking the Kingdom of Light. Adel falls silent, but then the Dark Prince speaks, saying that this will only happen under the current king's rule. Adel continues, explaining that the current Dark King has ruled for a long time and is considering abdicating soon. The new king's goal will be to create balance with the Kingdom of Light. The minister is skeptical, but Adel asks Iris for her opinion. She replies that she will think it over and give her answer by evening. Back on the ship, the soldiers discuss how they expected the envoys to be killed in the first minute, and that they are alive only because the envoy is a good speaker. Groza finds the noisy guards and orders them to clean the ship thoroughly. A soldier informs her that Phaeus of the Dark is urgently requesting her presence. Groza returns to the Kingdom of Earth as requested by Phaeus, and the ordinary people recognize her strength, knowing she is summoned only in serious situations. Phaeus leads Adel and the prince to a private room, showing his clear disdain for them despite Adel's attempts to reassure him and solidify the alliance. Suddenly, the prince asks Phaeus about Iris, questioning what kind of person she is. Phaeus gets angry upon hearing the prince utter Iris's name, yelling at them. Adel tries to calm the situation and apologizes for the prince. Adel acknowledges that the fate of the alliance in war rests in the queen's hands and that they must wait for her decision. Later in the room, Adel tells the prince that he's been causing problems all day, from grabbing his sword in the morning to speaking out of turn. He tells the prince he can't keep covering for him. Adel adds that the Queen of Light is trying to turn the war in her kingdom's favor. The prince insists that the queen is different and not evil. Adel concedes that the decision about the alliance lies with the queen, whether she is evil or not, and there is nothing more they can do. He advises the prince to try to rest. The queen spends the night contemplating what to do. The next day, Adel and the prince go to see her to hear her decision. The queen says she will give them her decision after they answer her question, directing it at the prince. Adel tries to interject, saying the prince is merely a guard, but the queen insists that this is why she is asking him. Iris asks the prince about the conditions and feelings of the people in the Kingdom of Dark. The prince responds that whenever Baal appears, the people are terrified because many of them die. He says that if an alliance is formed, they can save many lives. Immediately, the queen announces her decision. She agrees to the alliance. Shima returns from the city of Midas and heads to the palace to see Iris, but finds the throne room empty, with only Theos present. Theos asks her about Metis, and Shema reports that the magical power has returned to the city and reconstruction is progressing well. Shema inquires about Iris, so Theos shows her the ceasefire agreement between the Kingdom of Sky and the Kingdom of Earth. He explains that Iris will cooperate with the Kingdom of Darkness to stop Baal, the Lord of Destruction, and until she returns, he will keep their envoys as hostages. Shema asks what will happen if the envoys try to escape or cause trouble, and Theos replies that this is why he didn't go to the battle. He also mentions that Adele and the prince are not bad people. Shema responds that he can introduce them to her later, and she will decide for herself if they are good or not. Back in the Kingdom of Darkness, Baal has arrived, but the army is ready to fight him, including Valis and Groza. Groza is in charge of the archers, and Valis addresses the soldiers, stating that they must defeat the savage Baal because he enjoys killing them as if they were toys. He explains that their only chance to defeat him is at the moment of his arrival. Their plan is to immobilize his wings and launch an all-out attack to stop him and show him who the Knights of the Kingdom of Darkness are. As soon as Baal arrives, Valis flies and attacks him. But despite a powerful attack, it has no effect on Baal. Baal mocks him, saying he is grateful for gathering all these toys for him, meaning the soldiers, and adds that he will play with them for a while. The soldiers then attack him, but he incinerates them with a single blow, turning them into roasted soldiers. Valis is shocked by Baal's immense power and realizes he has crushed all those soldiers as if they were nothing. Baal continues to mock them, asking for the next game. The soldiers' plan is to lure him into a specific area to launch their weapons. Once he enters the range, Groza orders them to fire, thinking they have successfully hit him. However, like previous attacks, it has no effect on Baal. Baal, who seems to enjoy mockery, says she must want his attention to wish for death, but it appears Groza still doesn't fully grasp Baal's power and attacks him with Solitaira's thunderstorm. As expected, the attack has no effect on him, not even a little. At this point, Groza realizes they are up against Baal, the Lord of Destruction, and begins to feel anxious. She orders the second and third squads to prepare for another attack and gives the order to fire. Again, as usual, the attack has no effect on Baal. Baal then targets Groza and charges at her, but Groza manages to escape. Baal chases after her, but Valis is waiting with more soldiers, who form a circle around Baal. Each soldier creates a magic circle, and the attack fails miserably once again, turning the soldiers into minced meat. However, it appears the army of darkness had a bigger trap for Baal. All the mages attack him simultaneously, with Groza joining them, and Valis attacks with his swords. An enormous explosion occurs, and Baal is covered in it. Groza declares they have finally defeated him. However, Baal is only slightly affected and compliments them on their last attack, saying it was somewhat impressive. Baal then asks if they have exhausted their tricks and plans, suggesting he could kill them quickly. Valis, standing firm like a lion, attacks Baal again, telling him not to underestimate him. Despite Valis' bravado, Baal remains unimpressed. Baal unleashes a magical attack that paralyzes them all, declaring it is time to end everything. Just as he is about to deliver the final blow to Groza and Valis, they suddenly vanish. The King of Darkness has saved them. The King of Darkness appears and Baal comments that he should let some light into his kingdom because he can't see anything. The King of Darkness calls him Arrogance of the World, but Baal doesn't like the name. He prefers not to be called the Lord of Destruction or the Dragon, suggesting it's best not to address him at all. The King of Darkness replies that it's good to know because he has no intention of doing anything Baal wants. The King of Darkness attacks Baal, surrounding him with darkness from all sides, making it hard for Baal to target his attacks. The King of Darkness attacks Baal from multiple directions with strong attacks. Simultaneously, he rescues Groza and Valis, taking them to a safe place. However, Baal manages to dispel the king's darkness attack and calls him a powerless king. Just as Baal is about to attack the King of Darkness to finish him off, Iris descends from above and binds Baal with chains of light. Baal is shocked to see the Queen of Light. Valis and Groza observe and realize that the envoy has arrived in time and succeeded in convincing the Queen. The King of Darkness and the Queen of Light continue their assault on Baal. Despite Baal's mockery, he taunts the Prince of Darkness, claiming he gave up his dignity to ask for the Queen's help. The King of Darkness tells Baal this is his end, and he will be in eternal torment in the depths of Tartarus. Baal asks why he doesn't just kill him, but the king doesn't answer. Baal says goodbye, promising to see him there soon. Afterward, the King of Darkness and the Queen of Light stand before each other without speaking. The Queen of Light then returns to her kingdom. We then move to the Kingdom of Light, where Adele and the prince meet Shima. Adele thanks her for her hospitality despite her responsibilities. Shima responds that there is no need for thanks and gets straight to the point, saying she heard from the Knight Commander that the people of the Kingdom of Darkness don't want war between the two kingdoms. She asks if this is true. Adele confirms it, but before he can continue, Phaeos interrupts, saying if they spoke like this in the Kingdom of Darkness, they would be killed. Suddenly, the prince looks out the window and sees Iris has returned but looks unwell. The Prince of Darkness rushes to her, despite Phaeos yelling at him, and they all follow him to the Queen. Iris, exhausted and weary, lands and loses consciousness. The Prince of Darkness catches her before she hits the ground, asks if she is okay, and Iris replies that she has fulfilled all the conditions of the alliance. Phaeos and the others arrive, and Phaeos, worried about her, says he sees no wounds or injuries and asks why she fainted. Shima explains that Iris used a lot of energy and her body is exhausted, and orders to take her to the palace quickly. She instructs Adele and the prince to return to their room. Shima and Phaeos take Iris to her room, where she is too weak even to breathe properly. Phaeos is very concerned and asks Shima if she will recover. Shima tells him that Iris has become the bearer of the immense power of the ancestral runestones, and the exhaustion she endured was extraordinary, which is why she is in such a bad state. She then tells Phaeos to report to the envoy, and he goes to report to Adele and the prince. We then move to the prince's room, where he is anxious about Iris. Adele comes in and teases him about being attracted to Iris, but the prince says he is just worried about her. Phaeos enters and scolds them as usual for not being allowed to leave their rooms at night. Adele calms him down as usual, but the Prince of Darkness irritates him again by asking about the Queen of Light's condition. Phaeos yells at him, saying it's none of his business, but then calms down a bit and tells him she will recover soon. Adele asks Phaeos if the Queen succeeded in defeating Baal, and Phaeos confirms that Baal was defeated and the terms of the alliance were fulfilled without any losses. Adele says their mission is complete, and they will return to the Kingdom of Earth, but first they will greet the Queen and bid her farewell. Shima is still with Iris, trying to heal her, and tells her she doesn't have to bear everything alone like this. Back on Earth, Rosa is tired and wants to go home after the battle, but Valis approaches her, saying she fought well and that their victory over Baal is a great triumph for their kingdom. Rosa asks Valis if he wants anything from her. Valis says he knows she is tired after the battle, but he needs her to deliver a message to the Kingdom of Sky. Rosa agrees, happy that she will go and check on the prince. Rosa was grumbling because she had to go back to the Sky Kingdom even though she hadn't rested from the battle yet, but she was happy because she would see the Prince of Darkness. Adil goes to thank the Queen for honoring the alliance terms, and the Queen tells him that all she did was participate in the final strike on Baal, and that the Dark people suffered heavy losses. Adil tells her that the Black Kingdom is home to two peoples, humans and monsters. Monsters rely heavily on darkness, and Her Majesty shouldn't worry about them. However, she wishes them to be reborn as pure souls, and Adil says it's a great honor to hear such words from the Queen herself. He also says that when he returns to Earth, he will try to find an opportunity to advise the king to stop his attacks on the Kingdom of Light. But Phaeus is worried about Adil, and tells him that he's risking his head to the king. Adil says he's decided and will do it, especially if it helps the two kingdoms stop the war. A soldier enters and tells them that there is an envoy from the Dark Kingdom, asking the Queen what to do. She replies to let them in. Grozia enters the palace and apologizes to the Queen for her sudden arrival, but the Queen says it's fine, and asks why she came. Grozia says she carries a message from the King of Darkness, and the Queen must read it herself. The minister takes the message and hands it to the Queen. The Queen reads the message while everyone waits to know what the King of Darkness wants from the Queen of Light. When the Queen finishes reading, she relaxes and tells them that the King of Darkness is requesting an extension of peace until the damage caused by the battle with Baal is repaired. Adil is very surprised by the king's message but is happy. The Queen of Light says she will accept the offer and orders the minister to write an immediate response to the King of Darkness accepting the truce. Everyone is happy that the Queen of Light accepted the truce, and Shima tells Grozia that she will prepare a room for her to rest in. The Queen is very happy and says that while Shima prepares a room for Grozia, she will show them the Kingdom of Light herself. Grozia thanks her for the care, but Shima is worried about the Queen still not being well. The Queen assures Shima that she's fine and just needs some fresh air. The Queen, Shima, Phaeus, Adil, and the prince go for a tour of the kingdom. On the way, they meet Theo, Shima, and Phaeus' brother. He doesn't recognize the strangers and when asked, is told they are guests from the Dark Kingdom. Theo is scared and hides behind his sister. Adil tells him not to be afraid as they won't eat him, but he remains scared until Grozia sees him and laughs. Theo realizes that not all people from the Dark Kingdom are evil. Faius asks his little brother Theo what he's doing there. Theo replies that he's healing an injured bird. Faius is very surprised that his brother can use healing magic and asks who taught him. Theo says his sister Shima taught him magic. Faius is shocked and says he thought Theo wanted to join the Knights of Light. Theo jokes that if he joins the Knights of Light, his brother will end up as the deputy commander because he will be the commander. Theo successfully heals the injured birds and they fly again. Grozia comments that they are very kind, unlike the birds on Earth that steal food and destroy everything. Shima asks why they all wear black. Adil responds that it's normal on Earth and jokes about them wearing white from top to bottom. Grozia notices the Prince of Darkness is interested in the Princess of Light and feels a bit sad. However, Grozia tells Shima and the Queen that their kingdom's clothes are very beautiful. Shima replies that their clothes are also beautiful and allow for easy movement. Grozia says she wants to try their clothes, and Shima says it's a great idea and will be fun. They go to the palace and let Faius and Adil change clothes first. Then Grozia, Shima, and the Queen change their clothes. Each of them looks good in the other's clothes. Then the 6 of them sit down and play chess together, with the girls in one team and the boys in another. The girls beat the boys. The Queen says she is very happy to spend this time with them, and Theo tells her she can come anytime and play with them like she used to. Shima explains to Theo that she can no longer do that because she is now the Queen and must take care of the kingdom's affairs. Suddenly, the Queen's stomach growls. Shima suggests they go have dinner at her house, which excites Adil, who says he's getting bored of palace food. Grozia says she's always wanted to know what the food in the Kingdom of Light is like. Shima warns that it will be just home-cooked food, so Grozia shouldn't have high expectations. Shima cooks for them, and they all say the food smells great. Shima tells them to eat as much as they like and that there is plenty of bread. Grozia says she also brought food from the Dark Kingdom and gives Shima a jar of anchovies, which everyone wants to try. The Queen asks what they think of the home-cooked food. Adil says it's like palace food with no flavor, but when Faius eats it, he says it tastes very good. Adil is surprised and says the food lacks a lot of salt, and Grozia confirms that the food indeed needs salt. Grozia then brings out the food she brought from the Dark Kingdom and lets them try it. The food doesn't look very good, but Shima, Faius, the Queen, and Theo try it and say it's salty. Shima comments that in the Dark Kingdom, they tend to season and salt their food heavily. The Queen says they need to know such things about each other if they want to live in peace. The Prince of Darkness understands her point and adds Dark Kingdom food to Light Kingdom food, mixing them together. When he eats, he finds the combined taste delicious. Everyone at the table follows his lead and enjoys the mixed food. While they are still talking about the food and how good it tastes, Faius says the best food he ever had was the wild plants the Queen picked from the mountain. The Prince of Darkness says he also ate wild plants on Earth, but he's sure the wild plants that grow in light are very different from those that grow in darkness. At night, the prince is standing alone, thinking. Grozia approaches and offers to listen to what's bothering him. The Prince of Darkness says he was thinking that the Queen of Light is a very ordinary person, unlike what he imagined. The next day, they wake up very early and all go to pick wild plants. Queen Iris is very excited and walking quickly, so Shima tells her to slow down a bit because she hasn't fully recovered yet. Then Adele asks Faius why he brought his sword on such a peaceful outing, and Faius replies that he doesn't know exactly where the darkness might come from and attack them. Adele responds, saying that's what you'd expect from the captain of the knights, always being on guard. The Queen knows the place well, so she's the one guiding them and takes them to a very large tree. They're all shocked by its size. Grozia asks if she always picks wild plants from there, and the Queen says they grow densely in that area, so she always comes here. Adele suggests they compete in picking wild plants, saying that just picking the plants wouldn't be fun and entertaining, but if they divide into teams and compete to see who picks the most, it would be more fun. The first two to agree are Faius and Grozia. They are very excited about the idea, each thinking they will gather herbs with the person they admire. Faius with the Queen and Grozia with the Prince of Darkness. Then Shima asks how they will divide the teams. Adele says that their reason for being here is to strengthen the friendly relations between the two kingdoms, so the teams should be mixed. Grozia looks very disappointed, but Faius doesn't mind because he has a ready excuse to accompany the Queen for protection. The Queen then intervenes before they can finish the division and says there are some things they need to be cautious about when picking wild vegetables, especially since some plants are poisonous. She gives them a long lecture about the types of plants, the poisonous ones, how to pick them, and the exact size they should be for a good taste. Then she tells them if they see any plant and are unsure about it, they should come quickly and ask her, and she'll tell them. Shima then suggests that the best way for the competition to be successful is to take the Queen out of the game altogether, and Faius is the most annoyed by this. They divide into 3 teams, the Prince and Theo, Grozia and Faius, and Adele and Shima. The 3 teams set off to gather wild plants. Adele and Shima walk together and see fuki buds, but Shima says they are bigger than the ones the Queen picked. Adele tells her it doesn't matter matter, they just need to pick them. But Shima refuses to pick them just like that and says they need to call the queen first to tell them whether to pick them or not. Adele says that's an important difference between the people of the Kingdom of Darkness and the people of the Kingdom of Light. Those in the Kingdom of Light are too serious. Theo and the prince also pick plants and find ones that look like bird feet. They don't know if they are edible, so they call the queen. The queen tells them the name of the plant, confirms it's edible, and tells them all the popular and less known ways to cook it. The Prince of Darkness tells the Queen of Light that she knows a lot about herbs. She blushes a little and says she wants to go with them while they pick the herbs. Phaeus and Groza are watching the Prince of Darkness and the Queen from a distance, both feeling very jealous. Groza asks Phaeus why he's holding his sword, and he says he's watching the prince to make sure no one harms the queen. Groza asks if he thinks the prince might harm the queen. Phaeus apologizes to her, saying he doesn't distrust them at all. Then he tells Groza that the people of the Kingdom of Darkness seem to trust each other a lot, just like in the Kingdom of Light, and he never thought they were like that. Then they all gather and each team has collected a large basket of wild plants. The queen starts checking each team's plants to see if they picked the right ones. The best team is the princes, the second is Adele and Shima, and the third, who picked some wrong plants, is Phaeus and Groza. They then count the plants and find that the winning team is still the princes, followed by Adele and Shima's. Adele is upset, so Shima tells him their plants weigh more. The queen says they've collected many good plants, so they need to cook them and make a delicious meal. The queen also says she will cook for them herself. Shima asks Adele to go collect some dry branches to start the fire, and she and Groza and the queen go to get water. The prince, Phaeus, and Adele gather the dry branches. The prince says he rarely saw the sun on Earth and is happy to see it here. Phaeus tells him to enjoy the sun as much as possible while he's in the City of Light. The three girls go to wash the vegetables and fetch water, talking about how the way to wash vegetables differs between the Kingdom of Light and the Kingdom of Darkness. In the Kingdom of Light, they soak them in water to remove bitterness, while in the Kingdom of Darkness, they leave them overnight or they will be very bitter. Groza and Shima then go to prepare some things for the meal while the queen finishes washing the vegetables and catches up with them. The three men are gathering firewood, but Adele is bored. Suddenly, the prince looks around and asks where Theo is. They realize Theo is missing and don't know where he went alone. Phaeus runs to find his brother, and Adele tells the prince that he will search one side while the prince searches the other. They start looking for him in the forest. The prince reaches the lake where the queen is washing vegetables, but he stumbles and they both fall into the lake. They get out of the lake, and the prince asks the queen if she saw Theo. The queen says he went back to the place where Shima and Groza are. The prince apologizes profusely to the queen for making her fall into the water, but the queen says she is grateful that he is still worried about Theo. Then Phaeus and Adele find Theo in the same spot they were all gathered and are relieved he is safe. After a while, the prince and the queen return together. Adele teases them, saying they have become friends, but Groza and Phaeus are jealous. Adele is very excited about the meal the Queen of Light will cook, and they all join in preparing the food. When the meal is ready and they start eating, Phaeus asks them how the wild vegetables taste. Adele says it's the best thing he's ever eaten, and the prince agrees. Groza also tastes the vegetables and finds them delicious, but says they would be better with a little salt. Shima has brought salt with her and sprinkles it over the food, making it even tastier, and they all enjoy it. Phaeus tells Adele that they will need to establish a trade agreement as soon as possible. Adele replies, asking if that means Phaeus is asking him to be an envoy for his request to the Kingdom of Darkness. The queen says she wishes they could gather like this all the time without any other considerations. Then we see Adil standing on the palace balcony, holding a message while looking at the Dark Kingdom ship. The next day, Adil tells the prince that the Dark King has ordered them to return quickly without mentioning the reason. Phaeus waits with their weapons to give them as they leave, and Adil says the first step towards peace is a trade agreement. Phaeus advises him not to rush and that everything will come in due time. Adil reassures Phaeus that the mission will surely succeed. Adil and the Dark Prince go to bid the queen a final farewell. Workers are loading many gifts onto the ship for the Dark Kingdom, and Groza comments on their generosity. Adil and the prince go to the queen, who hands him a letter for the Dark King, hoping that a trade agreement will be the first step towards peace and balance. Adil speaks strangely about living directly under the light in the Sky Kingdom, while those in the Earth Kingdom live under a floating island blocking the light. He wonders how long they will live in the dark. The queen replies that balance between sky and earth, light and dark, has always been necessary since creation. Suddenly, Adil hysterically repeats the queen's words, making Shima think he's joking. Unexpectedly, he thanks them sarcastically, draws his sword, and attacks the queen. But before he reaches her, he is split in half by the Dark Prince. Phaeus rushes in, seizes the prince, accuses them of being savages, and regrets trusting them. Veus orders the soldiers to tie up the prince and confiscate his weapons, planning to interrogate him about the Dark Kingdom. Meanwhile, Groza is delighted with the gifts on the ship, unaware of what's happening. Soldiers inform her that the Light Kingdom has arrested the envoy, and they must return immediately. She is utterly confused. Veus blames himself for believing that the Dark Kingdom could ever be friends and sign a peace treaty, calling himself foolish. Shima reassures him that they managed to save the queen, but Veus remains confused and angry. He questions if balance necessitates opposition and if knights are destined to fight forever. Theo comments that nothing is eternal, mentioning he stopped the fight with a neighbor to avoid upsetting Veus, suggesting adults should manage conflicts better than children. Shima says goodnight to Veus, reminding him of the long day ahead, and Veus resolves to protect the queen with all his strength. The queen questions why those maintaining balance must fight each other, speaking to the rune stone, unwilling to be part of such hatred. A voice asks her to decide what she wants to protect. The Dark Prince wakes in his cell, recalling the events and questioning why he protected the Light Queen during the attack, thinking he should have helped Adil. As he contemplates, a white cat appears, unlocking his cell and signaling him to follow. The prince follows the cat through unguarded passages, realizing it is helping him escape. The cat leads him to a secluded spot where his sword awaits, then transforms, revealing itself as Queen Iris. They hold hands, and the Light Queen tells the Dark Prince that both light and dark are essential for peace, and that they must support each other. The prince shares her wish for peace, vowing to support her from below when he becomes king. He confesses his identity and promises to work with her for peace when he ascends the throne. The queen thanks him, emphasizing the complementary nature of their kingdoms. They promise to support each other from their respective realms, sealing their vow. Soldiers approach to capture him, and he thanks and bids farewell to the queen. She assures him she'll keep their promise and wait for the time he becomes king, stating she won't be alone. The queen goes to her garden, contemplating what the Dark Prince said. She reflects on how he always puzzled her, feeling that he was different. Not just a guard but someone calm and unique. She had suspected from the beginning that he might be the heir to the Dark King. However, his behavior was entirely different. He was incredibly kind. She never imagined she would have such an important conversation with him. She recalls him saying he would cooperate with her to achieve peace in their world. Dark birds attack the Light Kingdom, but Queen Iris repels and defeats them all. That day in the Queen's palace, the minister asks Veus if darkness had appeared in the city, and Veus confirms it, saying their numbers are small. Shima mentions she also heard explorers were seen in Midas city. The minister asks the queen how to respond to these attacks, and she instructs him to increase security at all military sites. She herself will fight the darkness once notified. She also orders the knights and mages to stay on constant alert in the palace, ready to engage at any moment, promising to be right behind them. At this moment, Vetus requests a short leave, surprising everyone, especially given the critical situation. He explains that, as Veus of the Light Kingdom, his duty is to protect the queen. Queen Iris looks exhausted from the last battle, and Veus states he wants to travel to find a way to help Iris fully recover. Shima protests, asking who will lead the knights in his absence. Vetus insists that Iris' recovery must be the priority as she is the heart and soul of the Light Kingdom. The queen assures Veus he need not worry about her, believing she will recover eventually. Veus, however, is determined to go, insisting on finding a cure, while Shima argues that he should train the knights for the upcoming dark invasion and focus on mages practicing their spells. Later, Veus confides in Shima about his deep concern for Iris. Shima, however, believes he should not abandon his position in such a crucial time. Veus insists that she shouldn't worry about the knights during his absence, suggesting Shima take command, but she refuses, saying she will never wield a sword. He then mentions asking Theo, but Shima retorts that the queen would never allow it. Shima asks if he has a plan to heal the queen, and Veus quickly says he does, but Shima warns him against any rash actions. That night, Vetus consults a genie, asking if he has found a way to help Iris recover faster. The genie confirms he knows a way, but warns it might be risky. Veus demands an explanation, and the genie explains that Iris is exhausted from her recent battle with Baal. He adds that while Iris has regained her strength, her magical nerves have not fully healed. The genie suggests that normally they would wait for the pure spirit to heal her naturally, but there are places with more concentrated pure spirit. He mentions that the largest concentration is in the inner spring, located in the Shining Drops, a long and difficult journey. Veus asks if the path is hard even for the leader of the Light Knights and the Genie King, to which the genie replies they won't know unless they try. Veus eagerly asks the genie to show him the way to the Shining Drops. The genie questions his duties as the Knight's leader, but Veus says the queen granted him leave, so the genie agrees to help. Shima is training with other mages, explaining the importance of focusing on the group spell. If even one person loses concentration, the entire spell will fail, negatively affecting all participants. Shima emphasizes that the Dark Kingdom has resumed their attacks, and only the Light Queen, knights, and mages can defend their people. They must unite to protect the Light Kingdom and begin training again. Suddenly, a soldier informs Shima that Vayus is missing. She rushes to the queen, who already knows and believes Vayus went to find a cure. The queen says they cannot send anyone to search for him due to the critical situation, hoping for Vayus' safe return. Shima apologizes, but the queen reassures her and asks her to return to the tower to train the mages. The genie and Vayus reach the entrance to the Cave of the Shining Drops, and the genie warns that few have ever returned from inside. Vayus, however, says he is not a coward and will proceed. Meanwhile, the Dark Prince recalls that no one would believe him if he said he met the Light Queen and jumped onto the Dark Kingdom's ship to return to Earth. He is denied entry to the palace, unsure if it is due to what happened with Adil. He feels uneasy but knows that the Light Queen has significant responsibilities towards all the world's people, and he must support her. The Dark Prince asserts that Iris, as the queen, shouldn't bear all the burden alone and vows to support her one day. He trains with Valis, who notices his seriousness since returning from the Light Kingdom. The Dark Prince asks if things must remain as they are, and Valis replies that they will never contact the Light Kingdom again, as decreed by the Dark King. Valis adds that the king is the source of power in the Dark Kingdom, and they must all obey his orders. Valis tells the Dark Prince that everything dark must continue to exist and expand as long as there is space, which is the world's reality. The Dark Prince questions if anyone has ever doubted this reality and how to ensure the right path. Valis hints that even the king might doubt his path. Valis says his duty is not to judge right or wrong, but to support those on the path, advising the prince to seek his help when he becomes king to follow his true path. The prince thanks him, but Valis insists it's too early for gratitude, saying the most important thing is to improve his skills to defeat him in sword combat. Suddenly, Groza interrupts their training, saying they are assigned to a mission to eliminate monsters on the border by the king's order, as the monsters are too strong for ordinary forces. The prince agrees to go quickly, but Valis seems uneasy about the mission. The prince and Groza find the monster's location to be maze-like. Groza warns to stay alert to avoid getting lost. Suddenly, the prince signals Groza to stop, and they are attacked by monsters, but being strong, they defeat them quickly. Groza comments that these monsters were too weak, suggesting they haven't encountered their real targets yet. The prince agrees to continue searching. Looking up, the prince sees ships heading to invade the Light Kingdom. Groza remarks that the king has no intention of making peace with the Light Kingdom. Suddenly, stronger monsters attack Groza and the prince. Groza fights them, but she backs up too far and falls off a cliff. The prince jumps after her, saving her, and they reach the bottom without injury. However, the prince realizes they are trapped. A massive monster attacks, and Groza's attacks are ineffective. The Dark Prince charges at it with his sword. Meanwhile, the Queen in the Light Kingdom is suddenly attacked by Dark Kingdom soldiers. She informs Shima, who reveals that the Dark Kingdom also attacked Midas City. Back to Vayus, he and the genie enter the cave to find the Queen's cure. The scene shifts to the Queen's thoughts. She expresses her feelings of confusion and the immense responsibility she carries, which she believes is greater than that of the Kingdom of Light. She admits that she shouldn't feel this way because if she lets her confusion take over, it could shake the entire world. She ponders the balance between light and darkness, considering the possibility of a solution other than conflict. However, she recalls the Prince of Darkness and reminds herself that she is not alone in bearing this burden. We return to the invasion in the Kingdom of Light, where Shima is in the midst of battle. She reassures herself that they have deployed forces to key locations, but doubts if it's enough to fend off the attack. She wishes her brother, Vayus, would return quickly to take command. Switching to Vayus and the genie, they are deep inside a cave and have reached a dead end. The genie pulls out grappling hooks and says they need to climb up to continue. He shoots the hook to the cave ceiling, and it pulls tight. Vayus starts to climb, but the rock beneath his foot crumbles, causing him to fall. The genie saves him just in time. They face a dark path ahead, and the genie advises they proceed with caution. Back in the Kingdom of Light, under siege, the sorcerers are doing their best to fight the darkness, but are scared and unsure of their actions. Shima steps in to lead, ordering the knights to defend the people and the land and instructing the sorcerers to return to their tower. Returning to Vayus and the genie in the cave, they continue walking for a long time without finding anything. The genie pulls out a lens and spots a red mark on the cave wall. They head towards it, and the genie's hand passes through the rocks. He calls Vayus, relieved they found it. Otherwise, they might have wandered the cave forever. Back to the battle, monsters appear in the city, and soldiers struggle to fight them. Shima is informed of the situation but doesn't know what to do. Switching back to Faius and the genie, they reach the fountain surrounded by crystal barriers. Faius tries to break them but fails. The genie successfully breaks through, and Faius asks if he's been here before. The genie says it's his first time. Faius thanks the genie, acknowledging he couldn't have reached this place alone. Faius is eager to collect the glowing drops and return, but the genie warns that they must be cautious around the powerful fountain. He throws a stone into the fountain, which shatters into pieces. The genie insists they should prepare properly before approaching the fountain again. However, Faius argues there's no time to waste, thinking the Dark King must have already attacked the kingdom and left leadership to Shima. He pushes forward, collects the glowing drops, and returns to the genie. Back at the battle, Shima directs the people towards the castle to better defend against the dark forces. She stands with the sorcerers ready to attack, but the queen arrives and single-handedly defeats all the Dark Kingdom soldiers. She then orders the sorcerers to create a large shield over the city, successfully doing so. Exhausted, the queen collapses and Shima catches her. When Faius and the genie emerge from the cave, they see dark soldiers in the sky attacking the Kingdom of Light. They also notice a protective shield and deduce that the queen must have created it and is now likely exhausted. Faius rushes towards the castle to aid her. Shifting to Groza and the Prince of Darkness, the prince attacks a monster with his spear but is taken aback by its weapons and retreats. He and Groza then team up to defeat the monster together. The prince thanks Groza, who suggests they return now that their mission is complete. The prince seems troubled, and Groza asks why. He wonders if they could visit the Kingdom of Light again. Groza doubts it, given the Dark King's intentions and the Kingdom of Light's likely hostility after the attack. Groza tries to change the subject, inviting the prince to share the fish she bought. He agrees, and she reminds him to eat well, as he'll be the next Dark King. The prince recalls his mentor's words about the ever-expanding darkness and realizes he can't accept or understand this truth. Groza confesses her love for him, but he doesn't respond, making her realize he doesn't love her. She asks if he loves the Queen of Light, and he admits he does. Groza runs away in tears, but resolves to support him no matter what. Back at the castle in the Kingdom of Light, Faius finally arrives with the glowing drops. He gives them to Shima, who administers them to the queen, improving her health. Faius and Shima leave the queen's chamber, where Thio is waiting. Shima updates him on the queen's condition, reassuring him she's fine now. Shima reports the Dark Kingdom's attack to Faius, noting the shield won't last long. Faius decides they should prepare for battle, and then lower the shield. The next day, the queen reflects on the Prince of Darkness's advice to follow her own path, reaffirming her belief in their shared destiny. Faius arrives, urging her to rest and assuring her of their preparations. The queen thanks Faius for his efforts, expressing her gratitude for his and Shima's constant support. Faius assures her that he and Shima consider her family and swears by his honor that he will never let the darkness harm her. He insists she must rest above all else. The prince is sitting, gazing at the sky, watching the vehicles heading to invade the Kingdom of Light. In the meantime, he is walking through the streets, and people are surprised to see him, wondering why the Prince of Darkness is not in the battle against the Kingdom of Light. They speculate that the king excluded Groza and the prince from the war and ask him if he has rebelled, but he denies it. The people then request that when he becomes king, he should lower the taxes, and he promises to remember their request. Some children come up and ask if their kingdom has won the war, hoping for a victory because the Kingdom of Light blocks the sunlight, preventing their laundry from drying quickly. Soldiers arrive and tell the prince he needs to come with them. The children are scared, so the prince asks the soldier what he wants. The soldier says he only knows he has orders to summon the prince. The prince leaves with them, and the people are worried about him. Switching to the Kingdom of Light, Faius tells Theo that the next battle will encompass the entire kingdom and urges him to hide in a safe place until it's over, even to flee if they lose. Theo insists they should all flee if they lose, but Faius reassures him that his older brother won't be defeated and will win the battle. This cheers Theo up, and he declares they will never lose their kingdom because Queen Iris is their leader. Faius agrees, saying that as long as they have faith in the queen, they will never be defeated. He vows to himself that he believes in Iris and will defend her until his last breath. The scene shifts to the queen, reflecting on the Prince of Darkness' promise that together they would bring peace to the world. She remembers their agreement to support each other, she from the sky, and he from the earth. The battle begins as the forces of darkness attack the Kingdom of Light. The queen hopes the rune stone grants its power to all the kingdom's inhabitants. The war starts with the queen fighting alongside the army led by Faius, and the sorcerers led by Shima. The Dark King appears in the battle, prompting Queen Iris to confront him. The forces of darkness are numerous and advancing quickly. Phaeus orders the soldiers to protect the palace gates with all their might. The darkness begins to control the people of the Kingdom of Light, turning them against their own. Shima performs group spells to protect the knights during the fight, but the knights are exhausted from the relentless combat. Phaeus urges them to fight bravely and not to retreat. Phaeus and Phallas face off, praising each other for their strength and determination. Phallas challenges Phaeus to a duel, and Phaeus responds that he is brave to challenge the commander of the Queen's Knights and her sword, vowing never to let him pass. Phallas replies that he wants to see his strength in combat, and the duel begins. Meanwhile, Queen Iris and the Dark King engage in their own battle. The Dark King boasts of his superior experience, but the Queen retorts, asking if he has won every duel he's fought. The King asserts that he is not weak like the light, which fades when it spreads, and that he represents the infinite expansion of darkness, predicting her defeat. He declares he has no intention of passing his throne to anyone and will remain the Dark King until the end of time. The Queen refuses to let this happen, calling his stance a rebellion against the world's natural order. Shima, struggling to repel the darkness, finds her spells ineffective and cries out to the rune stone for more power to defeat the enemy. Back to the duel, Phallas mocks Phaeus for his direct attacks and ridicules his loyalty to the Queen, calling it foolish and promising to remember him as the foolish Phaeus. Queen Iris fights fiercely against the Dark King. He is surprised by her persistence, and she declares she will defeat him here and now. The king mentions that his followers have infected many of her people with darkness, but she vows never to let him escape, determined to fight him to the end. He accuses her of using her people for her benefit and sacrificing them to defeat him, but she denies this, insisting she wants to ensure a good future for them. She attacks him but gets injured and falls. Shima realizes that magic is no longer effective because the rune stone isn't providing energy, but she refuses to give up, declaring they will fight without magic. The Queen falls near Shima, and they attempt to draw power from the rune stone again, but fail, and their defeat seems inevitable. As the Queen is about to give up, Shima encourages her to keep fighting, pledging her life to support her. The Queen charges forward, and Shima attacks the Dark King, who counters with darkness. The Queen approaches the ancestral rune stone, seeking to communicate with it for the power to combat the darkness. We return to the Kingdom of Darkness, where the soldiers escort the prince to the palace and then leave. As the prince enters the palace, who does he find standing before him? Yes, exactly, it's Adil. The prince's first question to Adil is about what he was thinking when he attacked the Queen of Light. Adil replies that he was following the Dark King's orders and that whether he succeeded in killing her or not, he succeeded in his mission. He knew the young Queen of Light would be shaken and become distrustful of everyone after such an incident. Adil explains that the Dark King is strong and smart because he has a single goal: to be the sole king of darkness. The prince realizes he is trapped, especially when Adil reveals that Phallas doesn't know the prince is here. Adil is filled with the power of darkness because the king saved him from death. The prince shouts at Adil, telling him that the path he is on is wrong. The battle between them is fierce, especially since Adil's body is infused with the Dark King's power. The Prince of Darkness manages to strike Adil, thinking he has defeated him, and begins to walk away. However, Adil attacks him with dark energy, telling him that his attack wasn't enough to defeat him. Adil attacks the Prince of Darkness, severely injuring him and successfully plunging a sword into him, but the prince doesn't give up and drives the same sword into Adil as well, apologizing for the attack. Adil laughs, telling the prince that the king sent him to delay him, not to kill him, and that he has succeeded in his mission. Adil explains that the Dark King will absorb the runestone's power, eradicate the light, and plunge the kingdom into darkness. This will disrupt the balance and lead to the end of the world, leaving no one alive in either kingdom. The prince becomes even more furious, realizing the king is worse than he thought, deceiving everyone who believed in him. The prince starts attacking the soldiers to prevent the king from taking the runestone's power, but there's no time and Groza arrives, telling him she will handle the dark forces while he finds a way to reach the top. He doesn't know how to ascend until suddenly, white magic surrounds him and wings appear. The prince, unsure of the magic, uses his wings to fly up to the Queen of Light. Back to Shima, the Dark King is attacking her, trying to fill her with darkness and make her envy Iris for becoming queen, but he fails to control her. Shima tells the sorcerers to continue fighting the monsters to protect the people. The scene shifts to the rune stone, where the queen is talking to it, lamenting her failure to protect the balance between light and darkness, and to defend her kingdom. The darkness has spread throughout her realm. At that moment, the Prince of Darkness arrives, fighting the dark forces, declaring the world's order to be wrong. The queen pleads with the ancestral rune stone for great power to expel the darkness. Meanwhile, Phaeus and Phallas are still fighting. Suddenly, they notice tremors at the palace but continue fighting until Phallas withdraws to investigate. Phaeus looks at the palace and sees a huge light, speculating that the light comes from the ancestral rune stone and that it might be self-destructing. At that moment, the entire kingdom collapses. Shima and Phaeus meet their inevitable doom, and even Iris falls. As she falls, the Prince of Darkness tries to catch her but fails. She bids him farewell with a gentle smile, and the prince screams with all his might to save her, but it's too late. The last thing he receives from her is a tear before she dies. The Dark King celebrates his victory, until the prince suddenly flies towards him at maximum speed, vowing to destroy him. He attacks with his sword with tremendous force, telling the Dark King that they will die together here, fulfilling the Queen of Light's wish. The prince launches his final attack, bidding farewell to Iris one last time.